was hoping we could discuss this in a civilized manner, work out our differences like two uniquely different individuals.
I don't think so.
This review has been made possible by Norbert thanks to his awesome support on Ko-fi. If you want to be cool like him, please head over to my commission page to learn more details on how you can order your own requests for a single cartoon episode for me to review. It's been a while since the last time, but today I'm looking into another well-known Christian cartoon that is still relatable enough for non-Christians to enjoy as well. This one is a 2003 series called Lenny Sid, and in more ways than one, this subject will be like a spiritual successor to the previous Christian hidden gem I reviewed, Little Dogs on the Prairie. I'm especially excited to talk about this one because of the talent that went into creating it. Along with radio broadcasting veteran Ben Chambers, one of the co-creators of Lenny Sid happens to be veteran animator Tony Bancroft. He is best known for his work at Disney, being the supervising animator of characters like Pumbaa and Kronk, and for co-directed the 1998 masterpiece Mulan. Currently, he and his equally talented twin brother Tom host the fun and informative Bancroft Brothers animation podcast, one of my favorites to listen to while I do my own work. While I've always been aware of the fact that the Bancroft twins are dedicated Christians who departed Disney in order to take a step of faith and pursue more non-secular projects, I paid little to no attention to that side of their long-time careers. With Lenny and Sid in particular, while I'm just now remembering that I've actually seen the title characters' designs in the past when browsing through Tony's artwork, I didn't take the series' existence into consideration until Norbert mentioned it to me in his reply under my comment on his review of another obscure Christian cartoon, Kids' 10 Commandments. But now I've gotten a full taste of this short-lived direct-to-video series, and we're gonna specifically look at the first out of the two releases it lasted for, Love Thy Neighbor. Yes, you heard right. Despite being a top 20 best-selling faith-based video series, Lenny Sid was even shorter-lived than Little Dogs on the Prairie, and just like the latter, the former had an installment that was cancelled for budgetary reasons. The third video would have been a Valentine's Day special of sorts, dealing with the issue of jealousy. From the sounds of it, I could imagine this being quite the scandalous watch. Love Thy Neighbor itself, being the introductory entry in the series, is centered around the simple life lesson of having the patience to learn that just because someone is different than you in some ways, it doesn't mean you can't befriend them, or notice that there are some things you two have in common. And yes, I know the second Lenny and Sid special, 'Tis the Reason, is a Christmas special, but Norbert recommended I watch it as well to get the complete picture of the series' stylings. I'll have to remember to rewatch it in December. Back to Love Thy Neighbor, it establishes the premise of the series, starting with an introduction to the young bunny protagonist, Leonard Hares. He's shown to love two things: collecting butterflies that were once emancipated creatures of nature, perhaps he should have been shown that one Arthur episode to scare him straight, and his middle school crush, a kitten named Jenny. Okay, that's like the third time in these reviews that name has been brought up. Then, the classic odd couple aspect of the premise arrives once the second half of the titular duo, a hyperactive mouse named Sydney Appleton, moves next door to Lenny and wastes no time making a friendly first impression. Meanwhile, the more timid Lenny wastes no time with feeling weirded out by this wild rodent, and spends the majority of his first day in the new school year avoiding the idea of creating a friendship with Sid, even if Sid's just trying to help out. Then things only get worse for Lenny when during lunchtime, the little blabbermouth thinks he's doing the shy bunny a favor by standing up for him against the big boy and feline, Hilda Van Heusen, the leader of, the Greaser Cats? Cause they do remind me of the Greaser Dogs from Cat Dog, but it ends up looking more like a one-way trip to the world of pain for Lenny and Hilda, with a confrontation between the two scheduled for 3 p.m. As you may have predicted, however, Lenny does become appreciative of Sid's presence in the end, once the latter stepped in to stand up for the former with a tasty speech.
Hilda, God created all kinds of different people, all over the world, and all over the school. It's like a double cheeseburger. You gotta have the bread, the meat, the cheese, the pickles, the mustard. Everything together makes up a delicious one-of-a-kind burger. That's life. So you and you need to stop sweating Lenny Harris with all this negativity.
Compared to Little Dogs on the Prairie, Lenny and Sid feels like it's like 5% more geared towards kids, with a slightly less sharp sense of witty humor, but a tendency to dish out some good funny moments that could make adults laugh as well, does lie and Ben Chambers' writing nevertheless, and I will describe my favorites in a moment. Now, the description of the upload from which I got the footage of What Flight Neighbor described Lenny as a ripoff of Arthur, and I can't help but disagree with that statement. Any similarities between the two series are mostly of the superficial variety. Yes, they both involve animal kids going to school. Yes, we do get peeks into the characters' imaginations on a regular basis. And yes, there is some furry confusion in the form of these anthropomorphic animal characters living alongside regular animals. The Christmas special was partially about the search for a lost cat, as if Jenny and Hilda aren't cats themselves. Otherwise, Lenny and Sid is as much of an Arthur ripoff as BoJack Horseman is a Scaredy Squirrel ripoff. No, really, that was once a real example of dueling works on TV tropes. And now I'll spend more time on one more thing these two have in common, being funny kids cartoons that can make adults laugh too. Again, it isn't exactly on par with Little Dogs on the Prairie's humor, but Lenny and Sid does have some damn good moments that are driven by the characters' personalities. I'll reveal who I think is the best character shortly. The lunchtime sequence alone was laughable for numerous reasons. I loved how the gawky turtle named Tommy acts clumsy while his head is hidden in his shell as he walks away from Sid's Limburger lunch. Even better than that was this remark he made earlier.
I wonder how many health codes were broken to make this fine meal.
You know, I can easily picture Macy Lightfoot saying the same thing under her breath. By the way, this won't be the last time I'll bring up As Told by Ginger, so look out. Then smack dab in the middle of those two Tommy scenes is this deadpan reaction from the irritated dog student after Sid got a little carried away with blessing his cafeteria meal.
Bread. Food, undercooked. Blessing, overdone. Me, out of here.
A worthy contender for the funniest moment in the whole special, and I'm glad they chose to play it as a sample of the series during this two-part podcast interview with Tony Bancroft and Ben Chambers, a helpful resource that I'll reference again soon. Now, literally going outside of the school, I must bring up another worthy contender for funniest scene. During the after-school confrontation, we see the pacifistic Lenny trying to make peace with Hilda by politely requesting to settle their differences. It looks at first that Hilda is feeling a change of heart, but
I don't think so.
that was a great subversion of expectations which almost had me fooled at first, and a funny example of how some people's mindsets aren't as easy to change as Lenny warming up to Sid. And speaking of Sid, how about we finally get onto this opinion? I agree with the kid in the behind the scenes featurette for the series that Sid is the best character here. Now, I know Tony and Ben said that with the whole odd couple angle for Lenny and Sid, they intended for the kids at home to choose whether they feel more connected with Lenny's quiet personality or Sid's loud personality. But while I may have slightly more in common with the introverted rabbit who loves to spend time with his special interests, butterflies in his case, there is no hesitation in admitting that the extroverted mouse is the more entertaining half of the duo. Sid is a great example of a character who's supposed to be more annoying to those surrounding him than the audience watching. He has provided so many comedic moments full of energy, including that aforementioned scene of him overdoing it in his head with blessing his lunch. Ben Chambers, who admitted that Sid was his alter ego, brought so much life to the character through his voice performance. In the same podcast interview I mentioned, he perfectly explained how he made sure that the big-eyed mouse spoke the way his personality desired.
When I started to do the voice, I backed a little bit away from the microphone, and I raised my voice up, and he goes, "Sid's the name, and adventure's the game."
Oh.
He's completely bending the needles, if you will, as I say in broadcasting. And so his voice has to fit his personality. He's over the top in everything he does, in his pursuit of God, his pursuit of friends, his pursuit of food, anything.
Got it.
It's all over the top.
On the topic of voice acted, while Tony Bancroft confirmed that Lenny is similarly based on himself, he didn't provide his voice. Instead, he plays a pair of elephant twins named Eddie and Freddie. It may have been a missed opportunity to let his own twin brother Tom voice one of the elephants, but you could argue the fact that Tony plays both twins is enough of a hint to his backstory. Now, the person who did voice Lenny is a woman named Marissa Meso, which brings me to this important fact. Lenny and Sid is another non-unionized Christian cartoon, just like Little Dogs on the Prairie, so it suited them time again for the more established voice actors in the cast. After Norbert helped me realize that the true identity of Wendy's voice actress is actually Jeannie Elias, I now have difficulty not hearing Carl Faltwee in my head. Also, I love the irony of all of this because A, Lenny is shown to be weirded out by Sid's personality, whereas this boy who once took possession of a petrified eyeball probably would have befriended the mouse in an instant, and B, while Lenny is a Christian, Carl was revealed in the Heartbreaking Ginger episode A Lesson in Tightropes to be an atheist, but he made an exception and spoke to the big guy upstairs as he's disturbed by his older sister being hospitalized. Other noteworthy voice actors in Lenny and Sid include Neil Allen as the principal Mr. Bixby, Stevie Blocks as Miss Pinkerton and Frida, and Dee Dee Green as Jenny, Candy, and Miss Farnsby. Behind those disguised names, Neil is actually J. Grant Alpridge, Stevie is Dina Sherman, and if you remember my review of For the Love of Sport from Little Dogs on the Prairie, in which he voiced Sport, you may already know that Dee Dee is actually Debbie Derryberry. With all that being said, this means Tony Bancroft and Ben Chambers are among the few cast members to be credited by their real names. Once again, Ben is the best out of the bunch in my opinion, thanks to how he knocked it out of the park with his sassy, rapid-fire performance as Sid. Moving on to what else the Love Fly Neighbor video offered, after talking about the characters' voices heard in the main special, the bonus content is devoid of them. Yes, both Wendy and Sid's specials are accompanied by a pantomime sort depicting the title characters in biblical times, clearly paid homage to the classic Warner Bros. And Disney cartoons. They could also be compared to the Wary Boy Super Shorts on the 2D animated VeggieTales spin-off that was developed by Tom Bancroft. Ironically, despite this being the most gag-driven portion in the series, there were more laughs to be found in the main 22-minute stories than in these 6-minute shorts. I don't know, maybe Sid's voice did more heavy lifting than I thought. The one accompanying Love Fly Neighbor is called All Hands on Deck, based on the tale of Noah's Ark. Most of the gags are playing it very safe, and overall it doesn't compare to the Pomp and Circumstance segment in Fantasia 2000 starring Donald Duck, but these biblical time sorts are still harmless. The one included with 'Tis the Reason, in which Lenny and Sid are herding a flock of sheep, was a little funnier. Obviously, the slight mediocrity of the Lenny and Sid in biblical times sorts does not take away from the overall goodness that both of the main specials offer, especially the introductory one I've been focusing on. Man, I haven't even gone into how good this series looks. Well, the animation itself is standard TV quality done overseas, understandable for a direct-to-video release, but the character designs are all appealing and match their respective personalities, understandable when this is coming from such an excellent ex-Disney artist as Tony Bancroft. One other talent I want to mention is storyboard artist Leonard Robinson. His IMDb is simply incredible, and it reminded me that I've seen his name before as a director on The Proud Family. His most recent credit is another independent Christian cartoon from another famous animator, Butch Hartman's The Garden, which honestly was harmless from the little I've seen. But going back to the main creators of Lenny and Sid, this series wouldn't be the last time Tony and Ben worked together. The Lilo and Stitch short, The Origin of Stitch, was written by Ben and co-directed by Tony, with the other director being Mike Disa, whom you may remember from my Creepwood review. Sadly, despite their ambition, Tunace's Family Entertainment never really became the next big idea entertainment, as Lenny and Sid and The Origin of Stitch are the only completed projects to come out of the company, leaving further DVD features unfulfilled. It's a shame. Planet Janet in particular sounds pretty engaging, but bringing up that podcast interview again, Tony and Ben said that they maintain optimistic mindsets where even if Tunace's would wind up a short-lived company, the duo would still end up as better people for taking that leap of faith and creating a nice quality cartoon for Christian kids. I highly recommend listening to both parts of this inspiring interview, as well as watch the behind-the-scenes featurette to learn more about the making of Lenny and Sid. In conclusion, while I didn't find it as hilarious as Little Dogs on the Prairie or as relatable as the McGee and Me episode that began this whole review request thing, there's no denying that Lenny and Sid has shown the potential of being a really good Christian family series that deserved a longer life. Thank you, Norbert, for giving me another opportunity to watch a hidden animated gem of the non-secular variety, and I hope you had a great birthday celebration by the time this comes out. To everyone else watching, the link to watch Wildfly Neighbor is in the description for you to check it out in case you never did before. And as always, please remember to like, subscribe, hit the bell, and leave a butterfly emoji to confirm that you watched this review until the very end. Thanks for watching and take care.